I said, give me a hell yeah!
Hi, everybody, and welcome to a WrestleMania hangover recovering, Nia Jax promoting, end of an era dissecting episode of the Brothers of Discussion. We're going to talk everything from WWE's successful fan-free showcase of the Immortals. Some eye-opening dirt involving Nia Jax and our beloved Alexa Bliss. And then dive into another week of the Wednesday Night Wars. At this point, or the Wednesday Night Slaughter for AEW. But, maybe NXT, they had some stuff, big stuff planned. Maybe they'd be on the comeback trail. Probably not. Matt, it was an especially hot and spicy week of professional wrestling. Not only did we have WrestleMania, Ric Flair used to be the dirtiest player in the game, and now it seems your daughter could be the dirtiest player in the game. She gouged her own father's eyeball out.
Yep.
Matt, how the heck are you?
I am doing okay. This is, I guess, let's tell the story. I was changing her diaper, and what we normally do is we stand her up because she loves being stood up on her two legs because she's like, I'm an adult now. So we stand her up, we have a good time, we giggle and laugh, haha, tickles. And she reached out with her hand, and I don't know, I feel like only people who have children will know this, but the little baby fingernails are hard to clip, so they get pretty long and they're pretty fucking sharp. And I learned that firsthand, literally finding out by getting a first-hand look, Mike, because she reached out and grabbed my eyeball and raked it. I got Mike for forever. I will shudder and have PTSD when I watch a wrestling match and somebody rakes the eyes. Because she raked my goddamn eye open.
Wow.
I had to listen to an eye doctor use the words flip back over because my eye was like this and he needed to close it, so it was like this. And, right now, like the way we have it set up, I have our camera on one side, or like the video feed on one side, and then I have our notes on the other. Yeah. And I actually put it on the wrong side now that I think about it, but it's just a blur. I can't see anything. So when we're doing this and it's time for me to start like talking about my points, you're going to see me like come up to it and really get in there. I learned that I do still have like good vision out of my right eye. But damn, it's a bitch to go to the eye doctor and have them go through that list. And I couldn't get the second row of letters with my left eye. Like it's totally fucked. I think I was such a man. I was such a pansy. Like I screamed like, oh God, it was awful. But, yeah,
learn how to take a bump, man.
So through this episode, I'll be doing an homage to WrestleMania 36 with my pirate look. I wish that I would have been given an eye patch, but Mike, now they have contact lens Band-Aids. Pretty boring. Yeah. So what was worse, Mike, is I actually felt great this morning, and the doctor couldn't get the Band-Aid off of my eye, so he numbed up my eye and then dug around on my eye with gloves.
His finger.
Yeah, and just kept poking at it, and he eventually had to scrape around the eye to get the Band-Aid off. So I went back to square one today. So I was actually healed up and fine this morning, and then the doctor had to scrape the Band-Aid off my eye, and then I couldn't see it. So, like, my wife's been home taking care of me and the baby. And today was supposed to be her first day back at work, but because the doctor scraped my eye again to get the fucking Band-Aid off, she had to stay home because I couldn't take care of Addie. Just a fun couple of days for me. And forever will I be scared when my daughter just reaches her hand out. I'm going to be going, ah! for quite a while.
So what do you think? What do you think's more traumatic for you? The doctor's big fingered, like glove finger, like scooping out your eye, or your daughter turning into Bilbo Baggins, and like.
Well, considering she'll be a part of my life a lot longer, and I hope to never see that.
That makes it sound
again.
worse.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're gonna be traumatized by her every time she just reaches for like a piece of fruit. Ah! Jesus.
That's
She's
already
like,
happened.
she's eating grapes. You're like, Jesus, honey, don't use your fingernails on the grapes. She's like,
careful with that orange. The peel will come off. You don't need to dig that.
She's
hard.
like, she's skinning grapes, you know.
She's doing string cheese later on in life. I lost my headphones. Wait, don't say anything funny.
All right, I will say a lot of boring things. Matt, before we dive into wrestling, it's always fun to hear when one of our own turns into John Moxley. Where can the beautiful people find us and everything?
They can find us. They can find us on Twitter at BOD Podcast. Find us on Instagram, brothers_of_discussion. Find us on YouTube now. You know, if you go to bodpodcast.com and brothersofdiscussion.com, we have all of the links for us to help you find the YouTube page, the Instagram page, Twitter, Facebook. You can find our live wrestling discussion group there. We do all that fun stuff for you guys. Now you get this video content. So please, if you could do us a favor, subscribe, like, what are the other words? Oh, if you could review it, that'd be fantastic. And then we can go from
And then there. If you do, Matt will send you a personalized Drew McIntyre video where he'll go.
And we got to do a quick shout out, Mike, because tomorrow morning I'll be posting a link for CBD Medic, our new affiliate with the Brothers of Discussion. This is why you absolutely need to go to the website or follow one of our accounts. If you are a CBD fan, and I imagine that a lot of people are in need of some CBD stuff, we're going to have an amazing discount for you. We're trying to get some buy two, get one free for you, but we might have a percentage discount. But yeah, just keep an eye on our Twitter. We'll be posting it all weekend so that you guys can see the discount. But that's where you have to go. You have to click on the link on our social media pages, but that's CBD Medic, and we will have a link just for you to get started. So keep an eye on the Twitter, Instagram. We'll make a cute little link for you, and especially on the website too for this episode and the show notes. We'll have a link once it's made available to us, and that'll start. I say tomorrow morning. I mean April 10th, and that's when we'll release all that stuff. So if it's past April 10th and you're listening to this episode, head on over to @BOD Podcast. Head on over to bodpodcast.com. Find the links. Get your CBD on a discount thanks to Brothers of Discussion and our new relationship with CBD Medic. All right, Mike, we didn't do that last week, so we apologize to CBD Medic. We screwed up. We're not good about having relationships that want to help us make money. So here we are, making those changes. And let's get rolling into some pro wrestling, because I did ask for a shorter episode thanks to my eye, but my eye's feeling better. So now we have a fuck ton of content to go over. Starting with Mike, wrestling news. Let's jump into what John Cena said. And I think part of the problem I have with this, Mike, if you saw these articles pop up, is that the articles say John Cena says no one will ever be at his level. Like that's the title of the article or something like that. And what it's speaking to is the fact that John Cena is actually saying there will never be a one superstar moving forward for the WWE. It's always going to be a collection. He even said it's like the Justice League or the Super Friends as opposed to just Superman. So what he's trying to say is it's a better world. But unfortunately, all of the rumor mills and all of those wonderful websites that try to create some clickbait have spun it into this John Cena saying no one will ever be as big as me. But yeah, here's the quote, and I just take from it what you will, but these are the exact words out of Cena's mouth. SmackDown, Raw, NXT. You don't have one person you go to see. If you go to a show, You go to see 8 or 9 people. I don't think there's ever been more potential under one roof than right now. The Attitude Era was the era of universal popularity. The opening match had a definable storyline into the main event, and everyone in between had some sort of narrative. Now we have a few loosely crafted narratives and some big storylines and a lot of matches for the sake of action. But I also believe that's on the performers to make something out of that. I do think there's never been more athletic talent under one roof than right now. All right. So it does kind of scatter all over the place. Do you take a ton of negative out of that and see John Cena saying no one's going to be as big as me? You're speechless.
Knowing Cena as the company man, that is definitely not what he was saying. I think if you need any evidence, you could have just watched WrestleMania this weekend, where all he did was try to get Bray Wyatt over. I got to say that that's probably the better way to do business. Because since we've been working from home, I could basically put the network on in the background, do my work, and watch old WrestleManias. And it's absolutely true what he was saying, where the storyline was basically, one big dude, start to finish, start the show, end the show, and then there was, some nonsense in the middle. It just makes me think of Bret Hart losing to Yokozuna, for the WWF title, and then Hulk Hogan stopping in and winning it, because there's only, one guy on either side who can do that. And it was a nightmare. It was terrible. I thought this year's WrestleMania was such a success because they did such a good job peppering in all those storylines with AJ and Undertaker, Edge and Randy Orton, McIntyre and Lesnar, even Otis and Dolph Ziggler, which obviously I'm a big mark for Otis, and I know you got 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 Dolph Ziggler t-shirts. I don't know. We've lost count, man. I'd get a second Otis shirt, but it's just him holding a stick of ham. I don't know what that's about. But it felt like there was an effort to build 4 to 5 to 6 different storylines going in. So I think what John's saying is true. I think that overall it gives you a better product because, it feels like when you get super top heavy, you're one injury away from just having to scrap everything and start over. Additionally, like with Superman, you're going to sell comic books to people who like Superman. If you're watching the Avengers, maybe you're just there because you like Iron Man, right? You're watching an Iron Man movie because you like Iron Man, but maybe you like Black Panther. So luckily, what they do is have all those guys in one Avengers movie. And if you like Hulk, if you like Thor, if you like Black Panther, all those guys are kind of in it. So I think it's better for business to not, have a one dude, because if you don't like that one dude, you're not grabbing that audience. Instead, you're able to grab all these fans of different, audience types. You get people who like fat goofballs like me, like Otis. You get people who have, an insane erection for Drew McIntyre, like Matt over there. Even people like Lesnar, they like seeing the UFC guys. So I think it's a much better way to approach the business rather than we have one guy and everybody else is mid-card. So I think John's right, and I think that it's just a higher quality product, man.
No, and I totally
hope I didn't steal
you.
Every talking point, but go ahead.
I totally agree with what you're saying there, even if I can't see you. But I think, we go back to a while back talking about the WWE trying to be like Disney, and you can't be Disney with just one movie. You can't be Disney with just one license that you're trying to sell. So the WWE absolutely needs a ton of brands. How many of these guys have their own T-shirts and stuff that are going out the door from some other venue or some other distributor? So it's something where you need all of these brands to kind of tell this story. So I absolutely agree that this is something that the WWE should be trying to do. And of course, injuries are number one. Like, this is why you can't just focus on one guy. Like, if somebody goes down, what do? You scramble and try to make everybody believe in somebody else, or do you already have all these things, in your pocket ready to be loaded? Mike, thought number 2 here, WWE website. They said WWE Money in the Bank 200 is coming on Sunday, May 10th. This is from WWE's website. Money in the Bank 200. Is this a typo, or is this trying to say like the 200th participant in the Money in the Bank? That's right.
I can only imagine that it's a briefcase that is suspended 200 feet in the air. And that the only way to reach it is to get on a gigantic trampoline and bounce your way up to the top.
Are they making fun of themselves for this massive roster that nobody gets on TV? And they're saying, 200 people can try and...
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be like World War Z, where people are literally climbing on top of each other to get to the briefcase.
Yeah, that would be fun.
They roughly have a paid roster of about 200 like on-air and off-air talents. I think they could get to 200 there, and somebody just climbs their way to the top.
So this is not a coronavirus blow your nose. This is a eye pain and your nose leaks. I don't know if you've ever had eye pain.
Yeah, they're all connected. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. So what hurts is that my nostril dried out. So like when I breathe out of it, it actually hurts my eye. So it's just this huge clusterfuck of pain that I can't get around. Right. I can't even. I have to like stick Aquaphor up here, get a good gob of Aquaphor, go up there, swirl it around. This is going to be great video podcasting.
Yeah, that's what high quality broadcasting is all about. I'm just still confused why they're doing this like so soon. Another empty arena match, because it sounds again like we're not going to have people in arenas until August, September. After the COVID kind of hits that. I know they keep calling it flattening the curve, but I think what we're looking for is not necessarily a flattening, but maybe like going back downhill.
Yeah.
That's deaths, not well. Now we got a nice even stretch of deaths. But I don't know if a ladder match is the best way to present wrestling. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, so I'll say that. So I think it does help a little bit to have like a couple different people, moaning and groaning. I think we started to see a lot of that, during WrestleMania weekend when we had, 8 hours of. I think a lot of people, if they just walked into the room while the wrestling fan had WrestleMania on, it sounded like Pornhub was on, because there was a lot of and it was really long, like 25-minute matches.
Oh yeah. Especially with Rhea Ripley. Holy shit.
Oh my God. Thank you for selling, but my God. I'm gonna stop right there. But hopefully with having 8 people in a ring, which depending on the state of Florida, I don't even know if they're going to be allowed to have the full field. If they're going to have a series of Money in the Bank elimination matches and then finally get to like a one-on-one. I don't know what the plan is there. I mean, we didn't even get the full tag team match at WrestleMania, like 2-on-2-on-2, and Money in the Bank's traditionally 8, so I don't know what they're going to do there.
I don't know.
Maybe a series of one-offs, but this is one I know you posed the idea of a hiatus, and I think that this event absolutely should have done a hiatus, found some way to like move it to, SummerSlam or something like that, but not Vince McMahon.
Not when there's Snickers commercials to go out.
That's right, got to sell those Snickers. Matt, WrestleMania was really good. We're going to get to that in a minute, but if you're listening to the show, you love wrestling, you absolutely need to see what WWE is doing, like with their documentaries, because they're so well done. Anytime you think, where's WWE's creative? You know what they're doing? They're producing these documentaries because they are beautiful. They're compelling. They're rich. They tell these fully fledged, well-rounded, dramatic stories. The recent ones involve Edge. His return from broken pieces of vertebrae in his neck. McIntyre, a 10-year journey for him in the WWE.
One of the saddest starts to a documentary, by the way, is hearing him just go, "Well, this is just how it happens for Drew." It's like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
And that was before we knew that he was going to win. So you still watch that and you're like, oh, Jesus, what if he loses? Like,
yeah, right. And then I guess the first time that, Mark Calloway has come out as Mark Calloway, and kind of told the story of what it's like, in between the WrestleMania matches, and we get to see the man, Mark, limping around in the backstage area,
calling out Roman Reigns.
Yeah, talking about how tough it is to just, do these matches once a year, and then you're immediately going into surgery, and then you're immediately rehabbing, and then you're immediately training for the next WrestleMania. It's just this awful cycle, especially when he had his hip replaced. I can't remember if that was 15 or 2016. But yeah, all three of these stories were so well done.
We only got a glimpse of that Undertaker one, but so the Undertaker is going to get better, I think, which is funny because we actually walked away from the Stone Cold Undertaker conversation and went, man, that guy's boring as fuck. I don't give a shit what he has to say, but this looks compelling. Now the Edge one, this guy, like, he's a trained actor now, so he really knew how to do like these talking head points. Because man, he wanted to bring you to tears right from the start, and then he's talking about his mom passing, and it's just such a great story of that they lucked into. Like, think about the fact that this documentary crew comes together to do Edge post, wrestling, and he's getting like this closer relationship with the WWE. He's doing like Sheamus's YouTube show, which actually figures its way into Edge's story about how he figures out he could probably wrestle again. Yeah. As you can see, my eye is really starting to fuck with me right now. So just ignore that, everybody. But so he gets this closer relationship with WWE. They're going to start doing a documentary that's just post wrestling. And then Edge starts doing I bet part of that is they're around. It's got to be in the back of his mind more often. And he kept saying he wasn't thinking about like taking those steps to see if he could wrestle again. But then, I mean, I'm giving away the whole documentary. So if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, you kind of know what's going to happen. Mike, you're totally disappearing on me, and then you're reappearing.
Oh no!
The video is going to be crazy. But I can't recommend that Edge one enough. And to think that I was even more on the edge of my seat for the Undertaker one, which was just this like a 5-minute snippet of what that documentary is going to be, and the McIntyre one just broke my heart. Like, as McIntyre being like one of my favorites right now, and kind of seeing him tell that story of what the reality is of him living his dream. Like, think about everyone that I mean, we're all trying to live some sort of dream, and are we ever going to reach it? And he, like, you could make the argument right now, it's pretty realistic that he's never going to get another WrestleMania main event like this. I think statistically you could easily say that there's a pretty good chance of that. So I just, I don't know.
You know what moment I thought you were going to touch on was, Edge's, he's starting to, get that wheel going. Like, man, maybe I can do this again. He takes that bump with Sheamus, and he takes the big bruise, and he's like, man, my neck feels fine. And then he's like, going to do the tests. He's getting flown in to see the WWE doctors. And then they're like, man, maybe I could do a return. And then the moment I thought that you would latch onto, because it was just so cool, was that they want to keep it under wraps. They're going to let him return to the Rumble, and he wants to do some training. He's got to get that ring rust off. And the one person he can turn to, keep it a secret, is his wife. I'm like, man, how amazing is that like Beth Phoenix gets to be there. I mean, obviously as his wife, but she's the one like getting him back up to speed. I just like sometimes, you obviously get to see, Michelle McCool and Undertaker. That's, a real relationship there. She's, watching this guy destroy his body like Mickey Rourke wrestler style. but Beth is just terrified that, you know, this is going to be it.
Yeah.
His neck's going to be broken. There's going to be no one to take care of the kids.
Like, think about how reluctant she had to be to, like, keep helping him.
Yeah.
Like, she just wants to see him be the family man. He's making a good living as an actor. So to her, like, for the family, do they need this? No. So she's turning it all in. She's given in all of, like, the instinct of, like, a family and as a wife and a husband of what you want. And you hope that your significant other sees as, like, what's the most important thing in the world. And I could see it in her the talking head points that Beth had. Like, this wasn't her dream. She didn't need this. She was happy. Right. She liked that Edge was at home. She liked that they had a routine going. But that's what you do. Like, if there's an opportunity you can take for your significant other to make sure that they do live their dream, like, you do everything you can to make sure that they get to that point. And that was, I think that's, like, even if it hurts you, if you disagree with it, I think that is, you think that documentary is about just Edge coming back, but it's actually about Beth. Why the fuck did I say Natalia? Beth taking care of.
They were a tag team. It's fine.
They look the same. You know, those white girls and blonde hair, they all look the same.
It's Edge's documentary, but I think for me it really won me over on Beth.
It's about their relationship. Like, if you go back and watch it from start to finish, that's even. I wish they had taken out the end where it was like Edge and Christian and had it end with Beth and Edge, because I thought that was a better moment where Christian is like, that part of it is just playing to the fact that it's WWE related, and it's like, right, hey, these two they were tag team, ha ha ha. It's you can tell watching that, like, it's almost forced. Yeah. Like, I don't even know if Edge and Christian are actually friends after watching that documentary. Obviously they have a podcast together and they still hang out, but it was like, there's nothing I saw in that documentary that made me go, man, those two couple
when
of
they get together, a lot of
watch out, because they're gonna make jokes that they have to repeat.
Yep,
they didn't get it.
I thought it was funny too that we got to get a quick rub for Dan Wheeler, Dash Wilder. I thought that was kind of cool that he was also there to.
That's who I thought you were going to say that you were so excited about, was Dash. But no, I totally agree that Beth was like, that made the whole documentary about them instead of it just being Edge or anything else. Well, but yeah, guys, go check that stuff out. Like, there's a reason we've been paying for the network even without NXT being on there. And I like to think that there's more of this to come. And
boom. Sometimes I'm kind of like, what am I doing with this subscription? And then I watch a documentary like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that was like Netflix good.
I am like, I was on the cusp. I've been watching Disney Plus, being at home. Everybody knows I got fired from my job. I just watched the Imagineers documentary.
Yeah.
And on Disney Plus, and I watched 8 straight hours of that, Mike. It was fucking great. And to think that there's also every Star Wars movie, every Avengers movie, every Disney movie, there's avatars on there. And then I think about the network and I go, I've watched all these pay-per-views. NXT's not on here for a week. What the fuck am I doing? But this is it. This is what we're doing. All right, we got to move on. Mike, you want to touch on this next one?
Yeah, just a baby one. Because I think a lot of people have given Nia Jax some flack, some heat, some grief, because, you know, she punched Becky Lynch once. But she told a pretty interesting story about her standing up for, you know, the boys in the locker room. Basically, she was telling a story about a show that Renee Young was hosting remotely. You know, Alexa is, you know, like 5 feet tall, 100 pounds. And she's getting pummeled by somebody, and they wouldn't say who it was. But she kept getting hurt. She kept taking real injuries home with her, but she refused to complain because she's Alexa Bliss. You know how wrestling is. You don't want to, you know, look soft. You don't want to say that the bumps hurt. So you just, you know, you keep grinding. So Nia, the two of them are best friends, and Nia, heard about this going on, and she said no. So, she went up to management and said, we need to do something because Alexa's getting hurt. She's not saying anything. So I don't know how much analysis is really needed. I don't really want to guess who is injuring Alexa. I don't think that's in anybody's best interest, but it's just kind of a nice reminder that, this isn't, the 80s and the 90s when it felt like everybody was trying to shank each other in the back, that there is a real camaraderie, especially with these women. And I just wanted to give proper kudos to Nia Jax, who made her in-ring return for the first time in a year. She had some injuries and she's back. But she got to dominate. She got her squash in, so she looked like Nia. But more importantly, she looked like an honest to God good friend. And kind of almost like an Undertaker role where she's being protective of the roster and not letting things like this go on. So I just thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, and how about them going over what her injury was and the fact that she fought with it? I think she had a double ACL, so both legs. So she continued to fight in that match, and I watched the replay of it, and goddamn, like we're always looking for these reasons to like or hate someone, and we've got plenty of reasons to hate Goldberg. And I think people had been building like a resume for Nia Jax, but this is one where it's like, God damn it, she sold for the business, not necessarily for WWE, but she sold for that match, and she had to win. She had to lift people. Man, I mean, goddamn, if you need a reason to like someone, you fight through the injuries to make sure that the match can go down. I don't know what else you need. I guess that's it for our WWE news today, Mike. So we can jump into AEW and NXT, or we can start to dissect WrestleMania.
Let's do WrestleMania, just because it was another slaughter, I think, for AEW this week. WrestleMania, it was 2 days, 2, 3.5, 4 hour episodes. It was way more digestible. It was a lot easier to pay attention. I thought the pace was excellent because the matches were a little bit shorter. It kind of felt like, we were chugging along. There wasn't a lot of dawdling. But, Matt, it was still 8 total hours.
Yeah.
What was your favorite match out of the weekend?
Well,
like, what are you gonna rewatch in a couple of years?
Oh my God, I've already rewatched it twice. But also because these matches are so quick, it's pretty easy. But Mike, that Firefly Funhouse, was it not everything that we hoped it would be? And more. It was more. I think it by far exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, it was beyond what I thought WWE was capable of writing wise. Yeah. I'm still trying to dissect it. All the nuance, the depth, the exploration of two characters. It was the most meta thing I've ever seen. And that transcends outside of a wrestling arena. Like it was beautiful. That could have won like a Sundance Award. That's how good it was.
Yeah, this goes. I mean, and that's the tragedy, is that it can never win an award because people don't know the background of this story. And that's kind of how you'd have to sell it. You'd have to sell the entire segment from, they do those like the preview of the feud so people can understand that, and then show the actual match.
Yeah.
Mike, that was we talk about storytelling in the ring, but man, that really was like somebody took time and put that all together. And even like it still continues. Maybe I think you sent me John Cena's Instagram account. Like he's not let up. He's still controlling that thing as if he's like I don't know if brainwashed is the right word, or if he's having like a meltdown or like some sort of psychotic breakdown. But all those things roll into one when you look at John Cena's Instagram account. Man, my eye's burning like a motherfucker right now. I should have grabbed my drops before we started doing this. But yeah, that was what we wanted. We wanted, and I think I want to have everybody like put a pin in these ideas right now for the Firefly Funhouse for when we come back to Gargano Ciampa.
Okay,
a little tease, but that was something new. This was something completely different, and this. I don't know if it only works because we're giving them a pass because there's no audience, or Mike, does a regular WrestleMania come around and they can get away with this match? Let me hot tag you on that one. If we knew there was an audience, can regular WrestleMania 36 get away with doing The Fiend and John Cena on a pre-taped match?
I think the one way to look at it is...
I can't wait to see a ghost come behind you and attack you.
It is pretty dark in here. I think one thing to keep in mind... If
you had a Fiend mask, oh my God. All right, I'm going to stop interrupting. Go ahead.
When we went to Royal Rumble, Elias tried to do a bit where he was singing a song about city of Houston and the people of Houston, and nobody could understand what the hell he was saying. If you go to a basketball game, sometimes they'll do like talking head interviews, and it just sounds like echoey. The sound's bouncing. So no, I think this was a beautiful accident that COVID happened to come around right when we were trying to book Bray Wyatt to look incredible against John Cena. I don't think that it works in another environment because I don't think that the in-stadium crowd, especially. We're not talking about a 20,000 seater. We're talking about like 80,000 people. There's no way you'd be able to hear what's going on. I don't think the drama would resonate. I think this was like I don't know how they're going to be able to recreate something like this because it was, kind of like the Fiend's debut, where it's just perfect that one time. The other times are good, but that debut was perfect. And I think this was perfect. I don't know how you would go about doing more of those. Not for a pay-per-view, because I don't think, again, you could really get the crowd to truly react like you want them to.
Yeah. Like, you would come back and you'd see people in the background going, what? Ooh. And it's this preconceived notion of what pro wrestling is supposed to be. But I was so proud of like other pro wrestlers on Instagram, especially a guy like Joey Ryan, like immediately saying that was the best WrestleMania match of all time. I don't know if he was being sarcastic. I hope he meant that, but that was one of the things I saw right away was Joey Ryan, the dick guy. It's the dick pro wrestler. Yeah. But him coming to the defense of that and saying it was one of the best matches of all time. Because I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life. Mike, when I watch WrestleMania matches, I'm going to watch Shawn Michaels and Undertaker WrestleMania 25. And then I'm going to watch John Cena and The Fiend at WrestleMania 36.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, how do you define, like, what? No, this, man, you can't have that because it's not what it was missing. This, and that. No. This is all pro wrestling. Everything we've seen at WrestleMania 36, including, like, this is our transition, including that Boneyard match, which was baller. I fucking loved it because how many times have we been talking about Undertaker? This is enough. Just go away. And we didn't have to worry about him doing old school. We didn't have to worry about him doing, some of he does like the flip and his whole body goes and he still does a clothesline. Like, we didn't need to worry about that. We just got to see an amazing story of, the American Badass returning and AJ, thinking he was going to win. And then the Undertaker, like, goes into the paranormal superpowers that he's always had and gets behind AJ and teleports. It's just, the choke slams actually look good. The pile drivers look good. That's what we needed from The Undertaker. And I just, you talk about lucking out. Again, this is something I don't know if they could possibly get away with. But I think this is where I'm coming from when I ask that question. I'm hoping that we can be, like, the WWE started it. So they put on this great match. And I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. But maybe we need to be here and we need to ask folks, we need to ask pro wrestling fans, pro wrestlers, like, please let this continue. I never need to see The Undertaker in the ring again. And if you say you do, you're insane because he looks terrible in the ring. This is how we can still
He looks like the thing he was worried about in the documentary.
Yes. We can get away
taking
from
his
him
son aside and saying,
overwork himself.
Man, you should have seen him 10 years ago. 15 years ago. It's like,
yeah,
you should have. It's not the same guy. and that's okay. He's a human being.
Right. That's not a bad thing. But how selfish is an individual to say, no, don't put The Undertaker in a situation that could actually help prolong his career. For a guy who probably deserves for his career to be prolonged because of how much shit he's gone through, don't give him those opportunities. Make him walk out to the ring and embarrass himself. Fuck that. They figured it out. The Boneyard match. A Boneyard match for the rest of Undertaker's career. That better be how it goes down. I don't care if we have to do a rematch Boneyard match at next WrestleMania. AJ's going to take the whole year off. He comes back as the phenomenal dead man and has like worms coming out of his eye and stuff. I want zombie AJ actually to come back and fight the Undertaker.
For a guest spot for 10 to 15 minutes, can we find a way to pay like Guillermo del Toro to direct Undertaker at WrestleMania next year? Just
that's the thing that this is missing. I completely agree. If the money was still coming in, I think that they could have actually they'd come to Robert Rodriguez, right? He's the guy who did Lucha Underground. Yeah. Have him come in and figure out how to do these shots, figure out, who are the guys that you worked with before to make sure that this stuff looks amazing, that it looks completely different. And he's a huge pro wrestling fan, and I'm sure he would love to get his hands on The Undertaker because if he's a pro wrestling fan from the 80s, he got to see The Undertaker in the 90s, become a thing. And come on, think about Robert Rodriguez movies. So, of course, he's going to love to throw in some sort of zombie aspect or something like that. So
it's just when Bray Wyatt fought Randy Orton and they did that ridiculous thing with like the maggots being projected on the mat. I think they were on the right track, but people were so quick to judge it because it was like the first time they really experimented with it. Like, there's an Evil Dead musical. You can look at Shakespeare and watch like The Tempest, and there's like an old man being tortured by the sea, and there's like sea monsters and stuff. I mean,
yeah, if
they wanted to, I think they could definitely find a way to still have Undertaker perform like in that kind of environment where it's like acting for the stage, but in a wrestling arena. So you could still borrow elements from, things that are as old as, the greatest playwrights of all time of like written horror and monsters and stuff like that. I'm not saying, we're not saying we want Undertaker to fight, Loch Ness Monster or something, or,
right.
Giant Gonzalez back from the dead. We're just saying that, you could still get away with doing these segments in the future and not have to worry about them in a WrestleMania scenario, 80,000 people hearing them, because it could still be like a visual. It's almost like you could get them one of those, mics that are really subtle, that you wear on your shirt or kind of coming around your head.
Yeah.
It's out there. The possibilities are out there. But I know this show's getting a little long. We liked both segments a lot. And I'm glad you made that point too, that the Funhouse was more enjoyable for people, who love wrestling. Like to know John and Bray's history.
Oh, right. I would say another one that I was surprised. Dave Meltzer gives it a 1 star. I think Bleacher Report gave it a C-. I'm really surprised by this because I really enjoyed Edge versus Randy Orton, and I don't know if we're just forgetting that there's a history there, and it was never about just like getting the win, which is one of my least favorite things in those kind of matches. Like, it was always about, I need to keep going so I can hurt this guy.
That's
how I felt.
Weird that,
so if you have a different, go for it. If you want to give the,
I really wanted to love it. I just thought it was oddly paced. I think it could have been about 10 to 15 minutes shorter because there was a lot of just groan reactions, and I know they're trying to sell the violence, but on a show that was super fast paced, and I'd say the longest match outside of this one was maybe 15 minutes. For this one, it felt like it was 45 minutes, and it was just kind of like dragging on and dragging on and dragging on.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, like for me, I was on the edge of my, and I'm not trying to wrestling fan bash anybody, but I just kept, so I'm sitting there watching it with my wife, and she's playing Animal Crossing, And I'm just going, oh, did you see that? No? All right. Well, it's okay. And then so it's just me doing that every 5 minutes. And then, then I'd see that she found another egg for Bunny Day. But it was, it was just a cute little pattern that we had going.
One of the things those matches usually do is it'll start in the ring, there'll be violence outside of it, and then they'll bring it back home.
Yeah.
And I think also there's a part of me that while the pace was kind of slowed, I did kind of want to see what Edge had left in the ring. And for him to just
we'll get there.
I know, but for him to just do the extreme match, I don't know. I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. The drama was there at the end. I think the finish was really strong, but I think getting there, it was just kind of a slog.
I did like, it looked like this was my favorite part, and it had nothing to do with like the actual wrestling. When they knocked out the camera guy, it looked like they took a rest. It looked like they set up in a different room and continued the match. Genius. Like for a guy like Edge who's getting back into this stuff, and for so many different spots they had to set up, I thought that was smart. I just, to your point, if you're editing this down, don't sit there and watch the camera guy who's down for almost 30 seconds. Almost 30 seconds. They're in another room. And you have to listen to the announcers go, the camera guy's down. He's down. Just don't even worry about it. Have the camera guy fall and switch to the next camera.
No. I'd say a match I enjoyed a lot more, and it's one I'm going to revisit. And it stinks that the crowd wasn't there for it, but this match needed the crowd the most. Was McIntyre getting his moment to shine.
Yeah. Did you think that Drew was going to lose? Because I totally did.
Yeah.
Because when
that's why. Yeah, it was booked. It was excellent. Just the booking was excellent. The way he immediately ate that F5, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe they're going to do this to him. And he kicks out at 1. I was like, oh shit!
I know. Now at this point, my wife had fallen asleep, so this was me watching the match, going.
No, for me, there's all this for you, there's all this nail biting and covering your face. For me, it was like.
See, folks, this is why you have to follow us on YouTube and IGTV because you're missing out on all of these fantastic faces. But essentially, yeah, it was. I think I would have loved to have a fan reaction because I couldn't have one at home because I'm making sure that my wife can keep sleeping. And see, these are the moments where I feel like Beth Phoenix. My wife will never know that I put in that effort to see my absolute favorite pro wrestler win the WWE Championship, and I celebrated like this. But that was just me waving my arms and smiling. But I at the time and even the next day, Mike, because this is kind of how I measured the McIntyre match. That Big Show match, the next night on Monday Night Raw, was better than the Brock McIntyre.
It was pretty good. Yeah, I liked the storyline too.
Yeah.
I liked it better.
I think they should have worked at some more Netflix promos for the Big Show TV show. But I think I want to follow this up, Mike, with asking you, is this the end of Finisher Fest? We've turned titles over to Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre. Both are guys that we know can go for longer bouts. We've seen Braun win the Intercontinental title recently, and that was not a Finisher Fest. And then we saw Drew, for most of his career and on Monday Night Raw the next night, go for a non-Finisher Fest. Is this it? Is this we've finally turned it over? Or do you think as long as there's a moment where Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman go at it, that we're still going to see power slams and Superman punches?
I know we like to joke, but Roman does actually put on a good match. I just don't know what Braun's really digging into his bag of tricks. I don't really know what he's got besides.
That's not a shot at Roman, though. I think it's a shot at the booking because they feel like we want that. I challenge everyone to go back. You know, when I was busting a nut over Wrestle Kingdom, there's a finisher fest. The last 5 minutes of a 45-minute match. That's when the finisher fest happens at Wrestle Kingdom. Before, you know, like those pre-40 minutes, though, you're kind of setting it up and seeing wrestlers try different moves, or even like the finisher fest ends in a completely different finisher at Wrestle Kingdom. Like Goldberg versus Braun Strowman, I listed on our things of our list of things to talk about. That was the absolute worst. Like the difference between McIntyre and Brock making it work and Goldberg and Braun Strowman is not making it work. That was the worst match in WrestleMania history.
Yeah, well, I'll just say, you know, it had no build. I don't think that anybody was hanging on the edge of their seat for like a false finish or to watch a finisher, because it was just kind of like Goldberg's gonna win. It just, you know, and then Strowman won. You're kind of like, oh, like that. Okay, well, I guess that's happening now. But I feel like the McIntyre one,
done? Okay, cool.
Like, was a McIntyre and Lesnar match really gonna like have like arm bars and headlocks? And no, it's like the two biggest, meatiest guys, you know, but biggest, meatiest, legitimate guy. I think that's okay.
That's my point, though.
So no, I guess in short, like, no, I don't think it's the end of like a finisher match.
Okay, because I'm saying Brock and Goldberg are now out of the picture. Can we actually have some real, like, let's compete with Wrestle Kingdom for like a match that we walk away from? And you know what? Fuck Dave Meltzer, but does it really hurt to not have a 6-star championship match? Does that really cause a ton of pain, or do they all have to finish in 2 minutes?
One of my favorite WrestleMania matches, one of my favorite wrestling matches of all time. I think there's maybe 6 different moves that are used, and it's Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. That is not, you know, that is not a work rate. That's just two meaty men slap, and they're not even slapping meat. Half the time they're just looking at each other.
Yeah.
So I just mean there's a way to book it. It's just about how you build the story. So I know. Brock and McIntyre, I thought I was on the edge of my seat because of the way Brock's been booked historically. How much I wanted McIntyre to win, and how he just kept eating F5s. And then it was like a 1 count and then a 2 count. And then I was like, I know it comes after 2. It's a 3. Oh, no. But somehow, you know, McIntyre prevailed. So I don't think it's the end. I think there's still a way to tell that story and make it interesting. I mean, we saw the Boneyard match. That was literally just like right hands by the Undertaker for like 20 minutes. He can't wrestle anymore. It was just right hands. It was fine.
And I think I agree. I think more or less I'm just trying to make a plea that maybe we can pull back on the finisher fest. Maybe we don't need 2 finisher fests in one WrestleMania. I know WrestleMania
this
went
Goldberg
2 nights.
Fascination, it has to end.
I think this is close to being the end because Goldberg would have won if it was something where the relationship was going to continue, right? This is it. You don't give the title to Braun Strowman, a guy who had a great chance to take out Brock Lesnar a few times and failed. Yeah. Like now he just takes out Goldberg after a couple of power slams. Like I think this is it for Goldberg. I think now we're finally going to move on, and this will be the end of it.
Yeah. Well, let's do some matches that were underrated. I'm just gonna kind of pick 2 off the top of my head here because I loved that Otis Ziggler match.
Oh my god!
Just because my boy Otis won, and Ziggler sold for him, just made him look like $1 trillion. Yeah. We also found a way to keep Sonya and Mandy on the WrestleMania card, even though it was albeit treating one of them like a prize, which kind of takes us back about 20 years, but it feels like there's something brewing there where Mandy and Sonya are actually going to break up and have a feud, and it feels like whenever that happens, that's when WWE straps the rocket to somebody. So in either case, I'd be happy to see Sonya start making her way up the ranks for a title match. For Mandy, who I think's been doing pretty good at her promos. Her ring work's getting really good. It really, and it kind of harkened back to like Macho Man fighting over for the winning Miss Elizabeth back. So it harkened back to a storyline that everybody liked. It was a fun underdog story for Otis actually getting the girl in the end. And then it's going to help, essentially 3 out of the 4 people. Just Dolph is not getting boosted, but I don't think that that's where his mindset is at right now. I think he's a company guy getting, company people over. So that's mine.
We're doing underrated?
Yeah.
My headphones popped out, so I missed it. I mean, my number 1 underrated, and I hope people go back and watch it, was Bliss and Cross versus the Kabuki Warriors. Like, what a great way to open up WrestleMania.
I'm this close to buying the Bliss Cross applesauce T-shirt. I'm this close.
I mean, if there's any reason,
shirt.
it was watching that match. I absolutely love that. I kind of watched it, and I said, okay, if this is how WrestleMania 36 is going to go, this is fantastic. Like, I really hope that, like, I guess I don't hope, but I wouldn't be shocked if they filmed all of these matches and they went, well, what's a good one to open with? And then they selected this one. Because it really was, like, we go back to AEW, like, they always start with a good tag match. And it's like, this is kind of what happened with Bliss Cross, Applesauce, and the Kabuki Warriors.
It was so good. You could have almost justified moving it down the card because, some of those matches, like Rhea and Charlotte, it got so quiet. Like the where you could hear the grunts and stuff, and you're kind of cringing because that's all you could hear. But just listening to Asuka and Kairi just berate, Alexa and Nikki, it was wonderful.
I would say too the KO and Seth Rollins match, I hope goes down as like as a favorite. That what do we call it? I mean, just the drop from the top of the WrestleMania sign, but getting to listen to Seth Rollins go, that A+. Like, we kept talking the week before, like, what are the reactions going to sound like? What's everybody going to do when they actually, their pain has to be audible because the arena is silent? Seth, I thought, nailed it because he didn't overdo it, and he made it sound like, he completely lost, the air was taken right out of his tummy, and it was painful. It sounded painful, and we're supposed to be, hoping for Seth's demise. So seeing that go down was fantastic, and they still told a great story in that match too, like the end and then the restarting and. Kevin really selling himself as a face now, I think, making sure that match got restarted. Everything about that I thought was great. And to think that it was one of the non-title matches, and they did a fantastic job. Somebody posted a picture of 4 different guys. 2 of the guys were Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens. And it said, how likely is it that these 4 guys don't hold a title throughout the year? And I think it also had like Aleister Black, maybe Ricochet on there. I would say like that. No, that's not with Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins on there. I think you have 2 A+ guys that could totally contend for titles at SummerSlam. They both could win Money in the Bank. Seth, I know it would be a repeat, but it would be great with Money in the Bank again.